During its 2011 50th Jubilee year, the Jesuit Retreat House on Lake Winnebago will be celebrating its past as a quiet harbor for those wishing to immerse themselves in a deeper relationship with their Creator.
It's basically a time in which a person can become quiet, can become attentive to the ways in which God is working in that person's life, and ultimately have the freedom to respond to these invitations that God gives each of us all the time.
It's a wonderful place, a place that, well, you can sort of reprioritize your life.
Today, most of us have all kinds of communication devices and so on in our homes, and we never really turn them off and just be alone with our thoughts.
You leave all of your daily activities and hassles behind. It's quiet, and it really allows you to hear God call you and speak to you.
It just really takes hold of you. There's a spirituality, there's a camaraderie with your fellow retreatants.
People come repeatedly because their spiritual needs are answered, because they meet God in new and different ways, and they are able to take that experience home with them and live it in their everyday lives.
Since 1961, the Jesuit Retreat House on Lake Winnebago has fostered spiritual growth for thousands of men and women. Its atmosphere of quiet, peace, and prayer has been enriched by the natural beauty of the site, nestled on the lake's western shoreline, 6 miles south of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. The Jesuits were not the first to notice the area's tremendous beauty. The site of the current retreat house boasts a long and fascinating past. Recorded history of the property begins in 1851, when Jackson and Ruth Swift settled the land with their family. In the next few years, their entrepreneurial son-in-law, Henry C. Morgan, constructed a sawmill and steamboat dock, and his successful lumber business soon attracted a small community of settlers. The Swifts named the community Perryville in honor of Ruth Swift's maiden name. Perryville thrived during the 1850s, but economic forces doomed the lumber business. By the time of the Civil War, Perryville was a ghost town. Around the turn of the 20th century, the Perryville site was purchased by two brothers, Ezra and Homer Fahrney, co-owners of a patent medicine business started in Chicago. The Fahrneys planted thousands of new trees on the property, and by 1910, locals were referring to it as Fahrnwald or Fahrney's Woods. By 1918, the Fahrneys constructed a 30-room brick mansion, along with a 3-car garage that still stands today. Over the next few years, Fahrnwald grew into a relaxing 400-acre summer estate that entertained prominent businessmen, politicians, and admirers from Chicago's upper class. In 1926, President Calvin Coolidge unsuccessfully tried to purchase the property as a potential summer White House. Upon his death in 1930, Ezra Fahrney bequeathed Fahrnwald to his nephew, John L. Vetty Jr. Somewhat prophetically, Fahrney commented in his will that the house on Lake Winnebago might be suitable for sale to a religious order. In 1944, Vetty sold the mansion and a few acres immediately surrounding the house to the Milton H. Berry Foundation. The Berry School for the Handicapped opened soon after and operated until 1951, when it was sold to the Missouri province of the Society of Jesus. The Missouri Jesuits then established a second novitiate for its province on the shores of Lake Winnebago. Following the purchase, the Vetty family sold the Jesuits additional land adjoining the Berry property, increasing the total area for the novitiate to 18 acres. During the summer and fall of 1952, a 42-room novices dormitory was constructed named Manresa, in honor of the Spanish city where St. Ignatius began formulating his spiritual exercises. The second floor of Fahrney's brick garage was transformed into a chapel, which was eventually renamed La Storta, the village near Rome where St. Ignatius received spiritual confirmation of his mission. Lastly, the current breezeway was built to connect the three buildings. The novitiate officially opened on October 26, 1952, with Bishop Bond presiding at the dedication ceremony on October 30th. The first novices arrived on November 7th. Over the next 8 years, the Jesuit novitiate of the Sacred Heart would be home to nearly 400 young men entering the society. In 1957, the Jesuit fathers began giving retreats at the novitiate, a foreshadowing of things to come. By 1960, the Jesuits had decided to consolidate its novices to the Minnesota location and close the Lake Winnebago site. Urged on by a group of laymen from the area, Bishop Bonta granted the Jesuits permission to transform the novitiate into a new retreat house for the Green Bay Diocese. Reverend Jim Corrigan, S.J., became the house's first director and oversaw extensive interior remodeling of the facility. In February 1961, with renovations completed, the Jesuit Retreat House sign was placed on Fond du Lac Road. 36 men made the very first silent retreat preached by Father Corrigan in February 1961. This first retreat was called the Jesuit Dads because most retreatants were fathers of men in the society. By the end of 1961, 482 men had made a retreat at the house.
Those days were tough. Number one, it was difficult trying to start from scratch. I think we conned, and I use that word respectfully, probably 25, 30 fellows up here. And it was tough up here in those days.
Father Corrigan stopped in to see us up in Appleton, and I inquired if he had a group from Appleton coming down to the retreat house. I was really a gung-ho Catholic at the time, and he said, "No, we don't have anybody." And I said, "Well, you do now." I said, "I'll bring a gang down." And we picked an early February date, and in no time, being a brand new Catholic, none of my friends wanted to disappoint me. They all accepted without exception, and we had a full house the first year.
My friend Dick Cooley lived near me, and he had a close relationship with Father Corrigan in Milwaukee, and he'd asked Dick to recruit some people to go to the retreat. So I consented to go, and I was very happy I did.
Women began visiting the Jesuit Retreat House in 1964 for single Days of Silent Recollections, and then began making 4-day silent weekend retreats in 1966.
It's a silent retreat with women, and although we aren't speaking to each other, you really do feel like you're a group. You're a group, and you're building relationships with each other, and so many of us come back year after year, and we're so happy to see each other and support each other and pray together and for one another.
In 1965, the Jesuit Retreat House began offering unique retreats that blended Ignatian spirituality with the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I kind of got here by accident. I belonged to a 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got to a certain point of my recovery where I needed something a little bit more, so it was suggested to me that I come out here. I didn't know what this was all about. I was kind of afraid. So I came out here the first time, and I was going to do what they call a 5th step in a 12-step program. And I met one of the Jesuits, and he kind of conned me into my first retreat because I thought it was the last thing I would ever do in my life. After I had one experience here, I've been coming back ever since, usually once or twice a year. I guess I've been here about 60-some times, and it's become an integral part of my life.
Beginning in 1979, reconciliation and healing services were added to the preached retreats. In the mid-1980s, additional innovative retreats were offered, such as Singles and Singles Again, and a Married Couples Retreat, which remain very popular to this day. In addition to retreat improvements over the years, the Retreat House grounds has seen facility improvements that have enhanced the spiritual experience of its retreatants. In 1991, work was completed on the beautiful outdoor Shrine of the Sacred Heart, located near the pond. In 1988, an anonymous donor's $350,000 grant was matched by many donors, which allowed the groundbreaking for a new chapel on July 22, 1989. A year later, on August 19, 1990, the Retreat House staff and 500 guests celebrated the new chapel's completion with a liturgy of dedication. To this day, eyes are drawn to the remarkable corpus of the crucified Christ, a gift from the Green Bay Holy Week retreatants, and to the beauty of Lake Winnebago visible through the chapel's many windows. For a half-century, the legacy of the Jesuit Retreat House has been to deepen the relationship with God in the lives of the men and women retreatants who visit here. The Jesuit Retreat House vision for the next 50 years is to continue to be accessible and self-sustaining. To meet that goal, the Retreat House has undertaken a Securing the Future capital campaign to preserve its mission for future generations. It will focus on improving facilities, accommodations, infrastructure, and growing the endowment fund to better support retreatants, retreat directors, operations, and maintenance. During the 2011 Jubilee year, let us pause and count our blessings and ask ourselves, what more can we do to strengthen the Jesuit Retreat House's shared ministry for the next 50 years? The Jesuit Retreat House, celebrating the past, securing the future. Call us or visit us online.